What's up, everybody? Well, I'm making a video and I know the air is on, but it'll eventually go off. But, I don't really have time. I have a moment where I don't have to whisper, and I have to cherish every one of those that I can get. But what I want to talk about is, I don't know how many more of these videos I'll be able to do, but, just wanted to talk about that, about how, yeah, how when they make these censored vomit scenes, I've talked about this before, and they may as well just not even have them. I really just hate that. When they have someone pretend to vomit, and you have, they're just, like in Cheaper by the Dozen. At least they went so far as to have the sound of vomit hitting the floor and the fake puke on the floor, even though the kids couldn't do a good job of pretending to vomit in Cheaper by the Dozen. But it just really makes me mad when so many movies will have a puke scene. I mean, it's more common than you would think. And another reason why I like it to be young children, I mean, I know that sounds creepy, but one thing is that it's more realistic. The younger the child, the more realistic it is for them to just randomly vomit. I mean, think about it. And anyone who teaches would know this. What age group of kids normally get sent to the nurse for just puking in the classroom? It's usually the lower grades of elementary school. And the higher you get up into elementary school, the less likely it is to happen because they normally get to the bathroom. And then as they get older, just like everything else about the body, high school and college and all that, unless they're, an alcoholic or something, they normally get to a point where they really just don't vomit all that much in general. But I just really don't like discreet puke scenes, where they just make a sound and it's like you have no real reason to think they actually vomited. I much prefer, like in cartoons, I like them to just really go all out. In live action, I like it when they, like in Problem Child, they tape the hose to the side of their face and they shoot it like if I had a hose over here. And, they have to put it just so. Do not like discretion. Do not like discretion. Wish they would be more graphic. As graphic as possible. Because it could never be graphic enough for me. And the air is just so annoying. But that's our weather. That is our weather. And if I was to make it to where it wouldn't come on, we would be hot as hell. And, I'd much rather have it cold because you can always put more clothing on your body. There's so much I can really strip off, and no, I'm not going to wear spaghetti strap underwear as outerwear just to feel slightly more comfortable. So, just wanted to get that out there. I really hate discreet puke scenes. I really hate it when, they pretend like someone, especially an adult, is just puking their brains out, but then you don't actually see anything. But yeah, I just can't get enough of this AI enhanced vomiting. And it's just been my dream. When I was a sophomore in high school, I made that show about Cody and Penny and the Rescuers vomiting. And no, I won't try to upload it because I use my own voice to make them puke, and that's embarrassing. But yeah, I made a PowerPoint cartoon in a rudimentary Windows 95 because that's how desperate I was to see them vomiting. And to me, little kids like that, it was more realistic that they would do that than an adult like Peter on Family Guy. So, just really love puke scenes. Wish they'd be more graphic. Wish they'd go all out. And more than just... See, that's what I hate about it. It's like you have a lot of really ugly cartoons like Family Guy, which is just bottom of the barrel animation. Just the ugliest 2D crap will have my favorite puke scenes. But then you have beautiful, photorealistic, computer-generated stuff. And like Sophia the First, it's just a beautiful fairy tale world. And you'll have a lot of just beautiful shows, but then if someone vomits, they do it in such a discreet way that you could deny that it ever happened. Like the Curse of Princess Ivy, Sophia the First, and they just have someone puke in such a way that you never see a drop of anything in the prettiest cartoons. Then the ugly crap, as I stated before, the Family Guy, where you have a man voicing a baby. That's where you'll see the cool vomit stuff. Not where it would actually be realistic to have a woman or a little boy voicing a little boy and making it known that vomiting easily is a function of having an underdeveloped body and voice and everything else. Your respiratory and digestive tract are underdeveloped when you're little, and that's why they vomit more easily. And once they get to have a man's voice, then they usually don't vomit very much unless they're just severely ill or drunk. And like I say, there is no reason in the world to get drunk as a man. You should never want to get drunk, because you should want to be as present as humanly possible for every moment of manhood. You know what I'm saying? What could be so terrible in manhood that you would want to escape with a bottle of booze? I don't get it. Even I don't want to get drunk, and I'm genetically female. And I have a lot more to want to escape than someone who was born with male privilege. But yeah, just the indignity of vomiting, should be enough to make people not want to drink as much as they do. So yeah, I just love seeing images of people vomiting, and I just hate it with a passion that they're just so discreet on most things. So discreet. They don't want to show you a drop of anything if they don't have to. And they certainly don't want you to see it coming out of the person. It's like they'll cut to the face of another person going like, ew, And then if you're lucky, you'll see the aftermath of what was supposed to have come out of them, like on Cheaper by the Dozen. But I'd really much rather have, more graphic puke scenes. It's a very simple thing to do. But it really can make a show. It really can make something memorable. Why do I care about Problem Child 2? Why do I remember anything about it? Because of the puke scene at Luna Park. That's the only part of the movie I really care about. And it could be that way with so many other movies if they wouldn't be so discreet. So yeah, just love puke scenes, but I never find them to be graphic enough, And it's never the kind of character you wish you could see puking, like in my case. Because it's more realistic, for a cute little kid. And it's almost like God makes little kids cute so that you can forgive their mishaps. You know what I'm saying? If they were ugly old fat guys like Peter Griffin on Family Guy, it'd be less forgivable for them to poop their pants and vomit. Which is, it's why I hate stuff like that, because it's like in real life, it's little kids that have issues like that. It's not funny, ugly, fat guys, usually. And I guess they're the only ones with enough BALLS, to pull off something like that as a voice actor. Women and younger boys don't want to do it. And let's face it, younger boys don't have that many years to do it before their voice changes. Because by the time they're old enough to read a script and get involved in voice acting, they usually don't have many years to be a little boy. And it's controversial as to whether or not children should even do acting. But, with AI and all that, you could change someone, you could have a computer-generated voice and never have any real humans involved in the sound effects. And that's what I don't understand. Why they can't be more graphic, at least with the sounds, Because you would think that, let's pretend for a moment, okay, say you have a voice actor who is unwilling to make puke sounds, or they feel like they can do everything but that. They don't want to do that, make puking sounds. Well, guess what? You could have a database of sounds, and you could have some people, like failing the milk challenge, the eggnog challenge, people who have failed those challenges, and you could find one of those people whose voice is close enough, like let's say Jess Harnell for Cedric, And while his head was under the seat, they could have put a realistic puke sound from a guy failing a milk challenge whose voice sounded similar enough to his to pass for it. Or if their voices don't sound similar enough, there's always the pitch changers. So like if you wanted a little kid, like let's say Princess Sophia or something, or one of the Rugrats, and let's say their voice actress like Ariel Winter, I think of Little Mermaid in winter gear. Let's say she didn't want to do a puke sound. Well, you could have a woman failing a milk challenge or something like that. And then you could, guess what? You could tweak her voice to make it just enough higher pitch that it's passable as Sophia the First. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, there's workarounds. And with AI, when you can generate a whole freaking country song, you know, that has only a bot singing it, which is why I have to misspell a lot of names that are foreign, you know, so that it'll get the pronunciation right. Because it's like if only it could be spelled more phonetically correct in English, you know, the bot could get it right. And so there's workarounds like that. I have to misspell foreign names, you know, to get the pronunciation right. Or, you know, just don't use the name, use an alternative to it. But it's almost perfect. I mean, it's hard to tell it isn't a human singing that. So if they can have an entire, you know, fake human voice singing a beautiful country song that moves me to tears, embarrassingly so, then why can't they do something as simple as a puke sound, you know, and tweak it to roughly the pitch, the average pitch of the voice actor? You know what I'm saying? To where, I mean, who really cares who it is? You know, if it's a man's voice making a puke sound for Cedric, or just some high female voice making a puke sound for Sophia, and especially if you have orchestra music to give you the suspense, you know, playing in the background, and you have other sound effects. I mean, you could never tell. But yeah, I just really wish they would have, many years ago, gotten past this good manners crap, gotten past this, oh, somebody might have emetophobia, you know, they may not want to see that. Well, you know, there's enough people like me, you know, who would be watching it just for that very reason, because they puke, you know, that anybody like that wouldn't really matter, you know. I mean, the only reason I remember Rugrats is because of Chucky loses his glasses, you know, and Ransom of Cynthia. The only reason I remember Rocket Power is Typhoid Sam, you know, so those are the most memorable episodes, and I wish they wouldn't downplay my favorite parts. And I'll go ahead and post this video.